Mooncake was probably the most comfortable car we took. It still had air conditioning and heat, which was something we hadn't had before or after. And so that definitely helped us stay more comfortable in the transits so that we could, it just allows your body to relax more.
Green flag.
Welcome to the Blind Apex Podcast, where amateur club racers tune in to get faster.
This episode is brought to you by Deechworks Fuel Systems. Visit deechwork.com for all your fuel system needs. It's that time of year again. This event, I listen to podcasts, I see the social media. It always gets me interested. The hook is set, and somehow between now and next year, I spit the hook out. But we're talking One Lap of America because it just wrapped up a couple weeks ago now. But I always feel like I need to know more. So joining me, returning guest.
You gonna learn?
Oh, I hope to learn. A member of the One Lap cult, pulling off a top 10 overall and a constructor class win, according to the website. Mm-hmm. I've decided you're now the pontificating pontiff of speed, who was also in a conclave this year, just not the conclave. And if he weren't happily married now, his dating profile would talk about enjoying sunset track walks of Gingerman. Scott Robertson, welcome fair. Back to the podcast.
I think your intros of me get more elaborate every time we talk. That's pretty impressive. I appreciate it.
What I mean, you're the one. You guys are the ones that set up the content. I don't do any of that stuff. I just doodle around. I listen to track walking, and then I'm like, you know what? This is how it's going to go today.
So to be fair, the team did have the name the Cardinal Conclave before the Pope died. So we
So you're the OG Conclave of 2025.
Yeah, we really dialed back what we had planned in the run up. Like we were going to have Photoshop versions of ourselves over the movie, like the little movie poster.
Mm-hmm.
So that, it kind of run the joke. But as soon as the Pope died, we were like, we feel like that would kind of be in bad taste.
Right. Let's dial them back a little bit.
Yeah. So we pumped the brakes pretty hard on some of the run up.
I mean, even when I was thinking about adding that to the intro, I was like, is it too soon? But obviously we live recklessly. So
here we are.
Yes. So, I let the cat out of the bag that you finished in the top 10 with a constructor class win for 2025. But let's get your background in One Lap, and then we have a whole podcast talking about how 2025 went. So, a quick summary of that too.
Yeah, so the One Lap of America was actually kind of my on-ramp to motorsport. Back in 2002, I want to say, my father owned a Chrysler dealer, and he went to the training early to try to get one of the country's first allocations of the Neon SRT4. And we had planned on doing the One Lap of America that year in this car, simply with basically brake pads, fluid, and that's it. The car got reallocated kind of last minute, so we didn't end up going. But ever since then, it has just kind of been on my radar. And that was back when, they were doing dirt ovals and Hennessy Vipers and Lamborghinis. I mean, it was a wild event. Just looked like a ton of fun. And the only real media you could find on it was in print. Because the internet was still in its infancy back then. And so really fast forward like 15 years, I was kind of getting to a point in my life where I had the ability to get a car, being a Miata, with the intention of doing the one lap of America and possibly wheel-to-wheel race in it. And so I was looking for a co-driver that first year, which would have been 2018 was my first one lap of America. So in early 2017, I bought the car early April. Had met, took one of my friends down with me to the start of the one lap because we're close enough to it. And, to kind of introduce the car to what it was going to be doing next year and kind of cementing the fact that like I really wanted to do this. And so later that same year, I proposed the idea of the one lap to a then friend of mine who I knew was like really big into adventure. She said yes. We started dating soon after, and then eventually we got married. It's kind of a wild, weird story there. But we did in 2018 with a completely stock NB Miata, except for interior safety. 2019, the drivetrain was still completely stock, but it had full suspension that year. That was kind of the big upgrade, as well as the race trailer that we now pulled behind it. And then 2020, I had purchased one of the first Z3 K-swap kits for the Miata, and with the intention of putting that in and doing it in the one lap. 2020 happened, and the one lap of America didn't even happen. It's probably pretty okay because that swap was not well sorted by the time the lap would have come around. But in 2021, the car was even dumber than it had been. Still had the K-swap, but now it had aero, had big proper brakes. It was a full-blown wheel-to-wheel race car at that point. And so we decided to do the one lap of America, and that was the year that we were in a wheel-to-wheel incident about 10 days before the start of the one lap. And that was some of the most stressful time in my life, was the run up to that year. And sparing some of the details, which can be heard elsewhere, we did make the start, which was a huge win. And we did pretty well for a car with 200 horsepower, changing brake pads at every track. It was wild that year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it was it was wild.
And you got into the Cardinal coupes, right?
Yes.
And
so that was a couple later. Okay. Yes.
And
yeah, we had the Sunday Cup years.
Okay.
Where we brought a small group of Sunday Cup cars to do the one lap, which was very good fun.
Right. And so for classing, because I want to get into that, Sunday Cup came and went. It was on the books. Now it's not on the books per se. I'm sure they could just dust them off the old ones if a bunch of people wanted to show up. But
you can still select Sunday Cup as a class.
Okay. I'm looking at the PDF of the 2025 rules, and it's not there. Just like Constructor Cup or class wasn't there. So
special construction.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So the base classes are Sports GT over 50,000, 3 liter and over, 3.5 liter and over. Sorry. Sports GT over 50, under 3.5 liter. Sports GT 50,000, under 50,000 with more 3.5 or over liters, right? And then Sports GT under 50,000 with under 3.5 liter displacement. We have mid-price sedans and wagons, American cruiser sedans over 3.5 liters, it says. Economy cars, luxury sedans over 50, sport utility vehicles, classic American, classic imported, all types prior to 1991, alternative fuel, and retro, which they might as well be classic imported. But anyway, my question is, your Miata, does it change classes from the time you did it stock until it was K-swapped and arrowed?
No, we were always in SSGT2 small bore, which generally put us in there with S2000s, and cars of that nature, the GR86 and things like that.
Okay, so that's one of my questions. Is Super K was out this year for a portion, and I'm like, what do you class Super K as? Because it was dominating.
It was. Yep.
And
yeah, I mean, that's kind of that's kind of the charm of the one lap to me. And there are many strong opinions about this. Is the classing is pretty silly in that it's so silly, like it doesn't really make sense. And so I don't think not a ton of people take the classing seriously because it's kind of nonsensical at this point.
Right. But I'm a try hard and I want to compete. Right. It's ingrained in me, like from Little League and intramural basketball through high school. Racing just became a new way for me to compete, and I do it ferociously. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we were in adult beverage fueled sport and social league here when we moved out and bought this house. And I almost got tossed out a couple times for arguing with refs over a game, right? Where most of the people were drinking beer and not really playing, right? So that's my competitiveness. And my wife indulges most of my craziness. The only time she's ever told me no is when I wanted to strap weather balloons to a lawn chair and see how far I could get.
Okay.
So when
boundaries are
they're good, but I don't have many of them, at least from her anyway. But so I keep thinking about what I look outside and I'm like, yeah, no, none of these cars are going to do it for me. I need to buy, build, develop a one lap car. So,
sure.
And
need to.
Yeah, I need to. I couldn't possibly participate with a stock Honda Fit.
No, God, that'd be embarrassing for you.
Correct. Correct. I just couldn't do it. I mean, it also comes into account, like the stock Honda Fit is my daily driver that I put 150 miles on a day. And I wouldn't want to take it because I wouldn't want to have to, one, be bored in it, but two, also replace it if I put it in the wall, right? Like it has its utility, it has its job, and I'll let it do that, right?
Sure. Yep.
So that's my caveat. Now, what car ended up winning this year?
It was a Porsche GT4.
That was the overall winner.
That was the overall winner.
Okay,
And then the Tesla Model S Plaid was P2. And P3 is escaping me at the moment. Shoot, I should know this too.
Yeah, the one thing I forgot to look up before. I got like 50 screens up or tabs open, but
Sure.
Third, it says
it was,
a 911.
It was the GT3 RS. Yep. David Marcus and Mike King. Good guys.
So, I mean, if you want to compete for a top 10 like you have, it looks like there's mostly ballin' cars up here. You got to write the check.
So the one lap, even in the time, what we would call a short amount of time that we've been doing the one lap, which is kind of silly to say because we've done it 7 times now. And even in the short time that we've been doing it, every year gets more weaponized. Especially in 2021. That was kind of the big step up year because everybody had kind of had a year off. I don't know, to like fester and like grow in like their try hardiness or whatever it was.
Acquire said weapon.
Something. It was wild when we showed up in 21.
Okay.
And
is that when Hollis got the McLaren? I thought he had that before COVID.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he had that before COVID.
Okay.
But yeah. So it was, and the other part of it is not just kind of the result of the people who've been coming to the one lap, but there used to be an old rubric with the one lap of America. It was, do you want to go really fast on track or do you want to be reliable?
Right.
There was must have been 10 years or so ago now, there was a twin turbo Porsche 911 with all the aero that showed up. It caught fire twice the first year that it went.
Right.
I mean, there are all sorts of stories on kind of home built race cars. You know, we've had Factory 5 kit cars show up. We've had the Ariel Atom do it on multiple occasions. We've had Moslers do it. I mean, just all sorts of wild cars show up. But it's not really until the last 15 years, and certainly the last 10, that you can walk into almost any dealer of your choice and buy pretty much a race car, and it comes with a warranty.
Yep.
So that as long as you can write that check, and don't get me wrong, you still have to drive it. I've got a great deal of respect for the fastest drivers on the one lap. But these cars have kind of proven themselves not only on the track, but they're quiet on the highway, which we can go into detail about the benefits of that. They're reliable. They're comfortable. They eat up road miles just fine. And then you can get on track and they have a bunch of gizmos and goodies that really lend themselves to the one lap of America format. And so it's kind of trended towards these higher dollar Porsche GT cars, Corvettes, Camaros, the new Supra with some add-ons and things like that. The Tesla with add-ons and programming and stuff like that. But there's kind of a recipe at this point in terms of like, what car you can choose and the cars that a lot of people choose to help you kind of get in there. And I think what we've seen the last certainly 5 years is it's really the midfield of the one lap of America that kind of win out got a bunch of Corvettes, got a bunch of Camaros, got a bunch of Porsches. And the midfield is fast now. It is wildly fast.
So the prices, it's noted in the rules, but I just want to say that the prices, so the 50,000 plus or minus 50,000 is prorated by inflation from like MSRP to current day, right? So I did this. Okay. So an RX-8 is under 50,000, but just barely.
Okay.
It's a 2007 RX-8 is barely under 50,000 according to, the Google AI when you factor in inflation and stuff. But it's there, right?
COVID did.
Yeah, I mean, we could start with cash for clunkers and all sorts of stuff that have ruined the car market.
Yeah.
And that's just, COVID is just the next one in the myriad of events that are going to ruin what we love so much. But I'm still trying hard. Doesn't matter. But okay, so it looks like Porsches. If you're going to be a roll your own. Now Super K was out there, and Super K had a issue, we'll say, and the reliability issue bit Super K. But you have to, if you're going to roll your own, brew your own, you're going to have to compete with the GT3 Porsches, the GT series Porsches. It looks like a ton of vets were out. You're right.
Yep.
Camaros, and the Supra. So Peter and DJ were in the Supra. I mean, it placed sixth overall. So you're going to have to roll your own car up to compete with that. So what does that look like? What power levels? Because in the top 10, you had the least power. I can tell you that. Like just by
a wide margin.
By a wide margin. Yeah. So what power levels, I'll phrase it this way. What power levels would you like the Cardinal to have?
So I've driven a Cardinal that's had about 400 to 450 horsepower.
Okay.
It was quite brisk. The car just doesn't weigh that much. Now with them kind of equipped as we did for kind of more road use and things like that, with me in it, it was right around 2,300 pounds.
Okay.
But in like full on track race trim, they're a couple 100 pounds lighter than that. But yeah, I mean, you're looking at a car 2,300 pounds with aero and 450 horsepower. That is wicked fast. I'd have to look up to see like what a Porsche GT4 car would weigh, or like a base level Corvette, like a ZL1 Corvette. But I can promise you they're at least 1,000 pounds heavier than that.
Yeah, but so okay, this is another thing that weighs in on it. So the series of events, right? You guys did skid pad, you went to a track, you guys did there was a drag race event, which doesn't apparently always happen, but the threat of it happening is always there.
I've done the one lap 7 times, and I've drag raced in it 3 times.
Okay.
We had a wild string of years with weather and whatnot, so it's quite the thing.
So we're doing our traditional road courses. You have wet and dry skid pad. You have to have a car that'll launch for the drag race. You're trying
and autocross
and eat highway miles, and lots and lots of things. Assuming you want to survive as a driver, it should be kind of cushy-ish. I mean, you guys did it in race seats, right?
Yeah. I've never had a comfortable ride on the one lap of America, and to our broken selves, that's kind of the fun in it for us is like there's I'll back up just briefly. They're generally between 78 and 85 entries every year in the one lap who actually go on the trip. And there, for every entry that there is per year, every single one of them does the one lap differently. And I kind of love that. And for us, it's always been, if there's not some hardship, it doesn't quite feel right to us, which a lot of people wouldn't agree with. And I don't think they're wrong. It's simply the way that we tend to like to do the one lap. Like, it's got to feel like we're doing something special. It's got to feel like we've got to work at it.
So you're the pontiff of speed, but also a martyr.
No, not martyr. Someone who dies for a cause. I'd say more the self-flagellation. Ascetic lifestyle. Every year in the Miata was hard for one reason or another. Even the years we took Becky's Sunday Cup car, it was certainly better in some ways and worse in others. And then the Cardinal had its own unique hardships that the Miata never had, but it had some upsides that the never had. The kind of the one car that I think I might draw the line at is something like the Ariel Atom, when you basically have to wear like full motorcycle gear if it rains. That's a level that I'm kind of drawing the line at.
Oh, come on.
Rob Fields really idolizes the Ariel Atom, and so he's got plans to do something similar.
Okay.
We'll see how that works out.
Okay. So I'm just trying to figure out what kind of things the car would need. So like, what is a acceptable power to weight ratio, would you say, for the one lap?
I mean, again, it kind of depends on what you're going for. Like, if you're going
10.
for an overall win, top 10. Okay. So if you're going top 10, I don't think you could do much less than what the Cardinal had. We were comparing data with a couple other teams. The power to weight was acceptable, but where we were getting eaten up was not really on. We certainly were not being helped at all on the straights. But there's some other like lower cost things that could be done without like going big turbo and a retune and things like this. Rob Fields, who owns Fields Auto Works, really wanted our cars to not have any power adders because he wanted to be able to demonstrate what they could do kind of out of the box, rather than like super high effort build that not everybody would be able to have, like that 450 horsepower one that I drove.
So what ECU are you on? Because I'm going to get to some other stuff, but what ECU were you on? Do you know what's in?
So I think the control pack ECUs, which you can order with the crate engines, the 2.3 EcoBoost crate engines. It certainly has its drawbacks, which we are fully aware, and Rob is currently exploring. Actually sent us a video of it running on a different ECU that he's excited about, and I'm excited for him because it's definitely going to be better.
Yeah, because you could have launch control. Some ECUs do flat shift, auto blip. Like, you could have helped yourself a little.
Yeah, the auto blip and flat foot shift certainly would have helped. For the car that Becky and I drove in particular, Some of it had to do with the knock control that was causing overheating issues. And that's just like a Ford programming thing that we really kind of couldn't get around. And so, for a lot of the hot tracks or like long straightaways, I was short shifting to kind of help mitigate some of that. So some of the power deficits that we were seeing on straights was due to me short shifting to try to get around some of this knock control issue.
So the caliber of cars that I'm seeing, I'm sure they could have had some level of ABS on them, whether that was all out motorsports or just performance ABS. I think you're the only one in the top 10 without ABS.
Yeah, that to me is probably the single biggest thing that could have helped. And I think I counted 5 cars on all of one lap that didn't have ABS of some sort. We being one of them.
And the other
on the format, no, the other Cardinals did not. So it'd be 5 other cars besides the Cardinals, the 3 in our group.
Okay.
Yeah. The format of the one lap is you have a recon lap. So you come out of grid, you go around the track, and you stop on track at the start finish line. And then once the green flag goes, you are timed from a standing start and 3 full laps consecutively. So if you make a mistake, if you go off track, the clock keeps going. It's not a best of, it's 3 laps back to back. That's your time.
Mm-hmm.
And several of these tracks I've never driven before in real life. And so to be able to like really hunker down on some of these corners, lay into the brakes and have ABS at least help figure things out absolutely would have been a boon to us. But as things were, even on the tracks that I've been to, the tracks that I know, you just always leave a little bit of margin, because if you have a lockup or something goes wrong, it's the clock keeps going. I don't get a redo, and it's not my car, so especially the corners with walls and stuff like that always leave a little bit of margin.
Yeah, absolutely.
So ABS and would really help to kind of close up those gaps. We were seeing typically that my opening lap was really where the biggest delta was between me and the cars that were in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
Typically on the lap 2, lap 3, I'd be between 1 and 3 seconds slower on average. But the opening lap I typically would be 5 to 6. And we kind of trace that back to largely the launch. I'm losing multiple seconds from the start going into turn 1. And depending on the track, that's a bigger deal than some. And the rest was kind of my slightly more conservative style, being in a car that's not my own with a car that doesn't have ABS on a track that I'm not familiar with in real life. So, yeah.
So I'm being bad. I'm looking at new cars under 50,000.
Okay.
Which would get shot down by my wife, I'm pretty sure. But
yeah.
What's coming up are like basically Mustang.
Yep.
Some intriguing ones are there's GR Corollas. There are the GR 86s. There's an Elantra N, which the warranty on that just kind of goes crazy for me. But
they're pretty. We've Grid Life has one in their street class that is turning some heads right now. Let's say they are very quick.
There's
for what they are.
A Scat Pack Challenger, brand new.
Yeah. You need some brake upgrades at least on that thing.
Yeah, some.
Be a thing.
Yeah.
It'd be a thing.
Civic Type R seems a little underpowered, but
I mean, with the tune, even the Integra Type S, I mean, you can get over 300 horsepower. But they're still fairly heavy because they're, more modern cars.
Yeah, and crash ratings and all that stuff. WRX still exists and is in the price range.
Yep, that's a choice you can make.
Friends don't let friends buy Subarus. I don't know what people think when they do that.
Yeah,
but,
Yeah, my co-host.
Yes, I know.
Is in it deep. So
he's in it real deep too. It's so scary.
Yep.
Sorry, Seth.
Yeah. I mean, really, if you want to spend like MSRP under 50 and go top 10, you will be making modifications to it. I believe, unless you just absolutely nail the setup and the driving is immaculate, and even then it feels like a long shot. Now, I've in theory crafted all the areas here because that's not quite what I do, but it'd be quite the thing.
So are most people bringing GM products? I can't see the whole list of entries, but I'm just surprised
there's
no gnarly Mustang showed up.
We did have a GT 500 carbon edition come. Things used to be more common. Ford products used to be more common. But yeah, the GM products have kind of captured this specific genre of cars. The new Corvette is very good. The Camaro versus the Mustang, I don't really have a dog in that fight, but at the same time, like, I think you could kind of go one or the other. But Porsches have kind of proved to be pretty dang good, especially the Porsche GT3 RS. It's kind of the weapon of choice for a lot of people. The 911 turbos, are super comfortable, and the all-wheel drive launches on those is utterly absurd. You can go EV, but that's a whole nother game in and of itself. So
yeah, I'd be interested
to be honest,
to see
I think
the Plaid's planning to like get to track and peak power and all that jazz.
Yeah, they've got spreadsheets. They're engineers and timed, and they don't get a whole lot of consecutive sleep. It's a lot of naps, stopping, naps, driving, more naps.
Oh,
it's definitely different.
A week of
I think
naps.
the cheapest. Yep, basically.
Oh,
yeah. I think the Supra Plus mods is kind of the I can't come to say cheap version, but that's kind of the cheaper end of the cars that are like really, really killing it in there.
I need to see how light I could get an RX-8, I think that's...
What engine would you go?
J32 from Honda.
Okay.
Yeah, the rotary's
not...
There's not enough oil left in the country to run a RX-8 that hard,
Yeah, I mean, you just put a 55-gallon drum on a trailer and, have a line feeding it at all times. Might be okay.
See, I thought they did. Yeah. I thought they got rid of trailers.
No, trailers are still fine.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. A J or even an LFX RX-8 would be good. You know, the ABS is pretty good in it. It's relatively light. You can fit good tire under there. It's a slippery body. Probably be fun.
Let's talk about tire, because you talked about it, and I don't think you talked about it on your podcast, because there was the debate on your team. And you also prefaced everything. You have the sight in and then 3 hots, right? So
yes.
What was the debate on your team?
So the kind of the first decision needs to be, are you going to go in the ultra high performance category, kind of the 300 treadwear and up category, or are you going to go with the extreme tire category, which is typically your 200 treadwear stuff? One of those is much better in the rain. The other is a little bit better in heat and on dry track. The tires like the Continental Extreme Contact Sport or the Michelin PS4S, those are pretty good tires on the track, especially when we're talking only 3 hot laps back to back. As long as your setup is proper for them, they're pretty darn good tires. They lack some of the real grip and certainly a better scalpel for the job as the extreme category. But they are going to be, tires like the Continental are going to be much better in the wet on your inevitable torrential downpour of a transit one night or 2 nights. That is the other part of it is, it's not just about track performances. You have to drive these things for quite some distance between tracks. And if you're rolling out on, this has been some time now, but if you're driving on the Rival, the BF Goodrich Rival, that thing hates water. And when you're driving 6 hours through a rainstorm on Rivals, you're going to wish you'd made a different choice. So that was kind of the big decision for us. And with the big jump in wet and primarily intermediate performance, but even wet performance of tires like the AO52 and the RE71 RS, that's really kind of helped to narrow the decision down for a lot of people, including us, is we could get through a torrential downpour on the Bridgestone and be okay. But to have that little bit of an edge in the dry, considering the lack of ABS, things like that, was definitely something that we were interested in doing. And with the lessons that Eric Streeter and I had learned in 2024, we knew that we could downsize our tires and actually get better performance, and including better wet performance if we did that. So it kind of became a toss-up between the AO52 and the RE71 RS. And if we really wanted to go super try-hard dry, I think the Yokohama would have been the tire, but we ended up with the Bridgestone that I was in full support of for the better wet weather performance.
And you were debating 255 versus 245, right?
Correct, yeah. It was still a lingering thought in my head. We had done 275s in 2024, and we knew we were going to downsize. It just, with the setup and the things that we were seeing, 275s wasn't it.
Too much tire, not enough weight in the car for the duration of competition.
hugely, and we also couldn't fit nearly enough wheel under the car to be able to do that properly. So yeah, we knew we were going to go down, and basically it was my more conservative mentality that was like, oh well, at least if we did 255s, we'd have a little bit better margin, even though everything in me and from everyone else was saying 245s. We went and did the 245s, and that was the right call. They were just the better tire.
Yeah, it's just something to consider whether you're going to roll your own or buy or whatever. You need to sort of sort out the in my opinion, the smallest usable tire. Because over tiring just doesn't seem like it's going to work in 4 laps.
No, but again, the format of the 1 lap really, if you can make the car have more overhead than you're going to use, you can underdrive it more and still have the same level of performance. And so that was kind of our thought with last year, and to be honest, in a lot of ways it worked out well. Is if you're worried about getting the tires like in their window, so to speak, but like up to temp and that's you're playing in a narrower margin, and I would tend to, especially for the 1 lap, I would tend to want to over tire a car rather than under tire it, because if you go into a corner, especially a high speed one, which is where a lot of time delta gets seen, if you go into a high speed corner and you've got wider tires, even if they're 20-30 degrees cooler, you're probably gonna still have more grip as long as the your wheel package and things like that are still good. And that just allows you to have more pace in the car without absolutely wringing its neck.
Okay. That makes sense. All right, let me go back to my notes. See if we missed anything. Okay. So,
we haven't about recon yet, so keep going.
We haven't done what?
We haven't talked about recon yet either, but we can get there.
Okay. Oh, I mean, we could probably talk about this forever if we're going to go that in depth, and it ends up being 2 podcasts and all those things. But so,
True.
So you've had a Miata, you've had, you've driven in a Sunday Cup car, and now
Mazda 2,
Moonbeam, and
Mooncake.
Close. I almost had it. and now the Cardinal Coupe. So
yes,
they seem pretty different.
Yes.
A diverse selection, all 3 in different classes.
Yes.
But what makes, if you could take parts of all of them, what would make a good 1 lap car?
So, Mooncake was probably the most comfortable car we took. It still had air conditioning and heat, which was something we hadn't had before or after. And so that definitely helped us stay more comfortable in the transits, so that we could, it just allows your body to relax more. And being able to relax on the transits is a big deal. when you're in a stripped out, loud, hot or cold race car with wind and all that sort of stuff, it beats the crap out of your body. You get to the hotel finally and your head's ringing. You're either cold or hot. Your body kind of hurts. It is not a restful experience. So I would definitely take some sort of climate control from the Mazda 2 and the weather sealing of either the Miata or the Mazda 2. If it rains on transits, things like that, you just roll everything up and, the rain stays on the outside and you're dry on the inside. The Cardinals we've always had like factory test vehicles, basically. Those cars are not weather sealed. So it's always loud, windy, wet when it rains. Not like Ariel Atom wet, but like, things get damp,
right?
For sure.
Leaks, water seeps in.
Yeah. Yep. It's, you pack everything in a waterproof bag, trash bag, or a plastic container.
Hot.
And that's just what you do.
Pro tip right there.
Yep. Oh yeah. And outside of that, Mooncake had ABS, which was great to have. We really did enjoy the lower horsepower challenge. The 4 cars we brought both years had under 100 horsepower, all of us, and the narrowest tires by a wide margin. And we still did pretty well in the field considering those two things. It certainly helped to showcase what slower cars can do. Definitely had, shed some of the expectations of performance in the field because you're not going to win anything. But the kind of inner team rivalry was good fun, and to see some of the cars that we could beat on a track was also always encouraging. What I loved about the Miata is it was, as much of a race car as anything. It's very sharp. It really comes alive on the racetrack. I know that car very well, even better now, and it just loved being on track. The morning checks were always vital, to be able to get eyes and hands on every bolt of consequence, make sure everything was holding together, because when you're spending 8 to 10 hours a day at 4,000 RPM, things are gonna work loose, and you just have to be sure you check things and be ready to fix it if so. And so a car that keeps itself together, a little bit more reliable, a little bit lower strung. That was one of the big parts we enjoyed about the Cardinal, was the gearing was phenomenal. And so it just did not have to work hard on the highway, and the torque was a real thing. It was great. Soaked up the miles for sure. Softer sprung as well, so it was a little bit more comfortable in that regard as well. So I would probably take, some of the ABS, the weather tightness, the highway gearing, certainly the power of the Cardinal. The aero of the Cardinal was pretty silly considering how basic it was. The car itself is just very aerodynamic. Low lift, low drag, and then you put a basic wing and basic flat splitter on it, like Fields Auto Works did. And the banking at Gateway was flat when I hit it right, which is pretty nutty to be able to say that on 245 tires.
So let's get into recon, I guess. I don't know how long you think it's going to take to discuss that, but I think it'll go into sort of how I want to talk about driver prep whether we
Sure.
record that tonight or some other time. I don't know, whatever you want.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I don't think it'll take long. Prep is something that you can choose to do or not to do. And to be honest, I wish more people would choose not to do it, because I think the surprise in figuring it out on the fly is a great challenge. We never get to see the autocross course until we arrive, and everyone's given time to be able to walk the course at least a few times to familiarize yourself, and then you go. There was 2 years in a row, a few years back, where we went to a 3/8 mile paved oval at Lanier Raceway that no one to practice, and that was some of the most hilarious fun I've ever had on a racetrack. But otherwise,
you can spin Lanier on iRacing now.
Yes. Yeah, that event was. I still smile when I think about it. It was just very silly, but I loved it. But the route is launched usually right around Christmas time every year, and some of it's leaked even earlier, and so people, especially down south, can get out to tracks in the fall time, even over winter, and certainly once springtime comes, to go take their one lap car and sometimes a few sets of wheels and tires to figure out what they want to run to these different tracks, to figure them out, like figure out what their break points are going to be and things like that. Certainly the amount of time off and the cost is involved. And this year I did a lot more prep on my simulator to help me get ready. This was kind of a year to try harder. So that was one of the things I did. And I do think that it was a big help in performance to be able to get out there and just go much quicker. And outside of that, that's watching video of other people, of other cars, was kind of how I started doing the one lap, making notes on a track map and things like that. So to find a video of a car like yours, but maybe like a little bit quicker or something, is good to be able to notice things. It's kind of like riding right seat. You get to look around a little bit more, notice better reference points, things like that as well.
So you've hinted, especially with the Plaid guys, about sleep. And in your podcast, you talked about how this wasn't quite as grueling in the transits as it has been in previous years. But how important, and what are your feelings on like sleep, nutrition, and kind of like the personal gear or clothes that you should be packing? Like,
good. Yeah. Excellent question. Sleep is always difficult, and you can never catch up once you're behind, I've found. And so if the one lap starts with a shorter transit, there's always the temptation of like going out to a big dinner, which a lot of teams do. Some do it every night. Some stay out for hours after they get to the hotel, drinking with everybody in the parking lot, stuff like that. I'll say hi and do that stuff, but it's, like I said, it's just very hard to catch up on sleep. And this year we kind of started with a little bit of a deficit. And so if you can get 6 hours of sleep per night, that's pretty good on the one lap. You can certainly get more if you qualify really high up and you get out onto the road really quick. We were traveling as a team, so fortunately all three of us kind of got out in the mid pack, so we weren't there until the very end, which we had done for years. And I love those people, the all remaining cars, as we call them. and they're great people, great vibes. The One Lap would not be the same without them. And so we definitely try to prioritize sleep. Our bathroom and fuel stops, we really try to keep short. There's always the temptation to like want to talk and hang out at gas stations, but if we can get out 5 minutes sooner, generally with all your stops, that's 15, 20 minutes you lose of sleep a night. And that adds up over the course of 8 days for sure. Nutrition has been something that we finally figured out a couple years ago and has been a big help in terms of our energy level. Gas station selection has also improved. I feel like even like a lot of mom and pop shops, they've got, the hard boiled eggs in a container, containers of grapes and pineapple, watermelon. They've got, wraps, like pre-made wraps ready to go. So, you're not just eating burgers and jerky and, sugar all the time. I really try to stay away from sugar, refined sugars. Especially on the One Lap, they sap your energy.
Yeah.
And, I tried to do the cleanest, caffeine possible. And that's really helped us the last few years, not just on the One Lap. But yeah, having good nutrition has been a big thing.
So he's not slamming 10 monsters a day. What are you doing?
Honestly, caffeine pills for me. I don't like coffee and I don't really enjoy tea.
Mm-hmm.
And to find another clean source of caffeine, like 5 Hour Energy is close, but it still has some kind of exciters and uppers in it, and I just want the caffeine. So you can buy a bottle of like 100 milligram pills for like $20, and that'll keep you going just fine.
So do you do a caffeine, or do you abstain from caffeine before the event for like a week or two to try to maximize its effects, or you just roll normal?
Typically I just do it normally. But in my day-to-day life, I don't really use any caffeine. It's primarily only as a performance focus enhancer, so to speak.
Right.
So it's never really been a problem for me. And I really only use it when I need to, which generally is from like day 3 on.
So I wanted to talk about personal gear because, it came to mind because actually my personal gear for me would be tied to my sleep, because I would have to pack my pillow that I have at home, because no hotel is going to be able to replicate any kind of good sleep for me without it. So,
sure.
But what other kind of, creature comfort, personal type gear do you recommend?
I mean, for us, it's always earplugs, but that's more to do with our choice of vehicles on the One Lap. Earplugs and Bluetooth earbuds are really important.
Mm-hmm.
A good water bottle is key for us. 16, 24 ounces don't do it. We're carrying 40 ounce double walled bottles around. And timing that with our stops has become a thing we've gotten very good at as well. Outside of that, we bring typically 2 contractor-sized trash bags with us. So if it does rain in paddock when all of our stuff is out, if our like my gear bag is not waterproof, so I can easily put that inside one of the contractor bags, close it up, and it's dry. Always need at least a rain jacket. Umbrella tends to be a little bit awkward sized for a lot of things. And outside of that, like we're really looking at tools, spares package for the car, things of that nature. I do have a neck pillow for the car to help us sleep. Yeah, and that's eye mask if you have a hard time falling asleep with lights on, to put on in transit as well would be a pretty big thing.
Yeah, that'd be my wife. We live in the country,
Yeah.
and if the moon is full, she's like, we need to black out curtains. I'm like, it's just the moon, so.
Yeah, I've got 2 sets of blackout curtains in our bedroom, and I still know exactly where the light comes in.
So, one thing I wanted to talk about is post-event recovery, because we all get in a 2-day, 3-day race weekend, we have race car hangovers. Monday, Tuesday at work is terrible because we've lived our lives with the dopamine hits all the time, all weekend. Now you're doing it for 8 days. So what is it like when you come home finally?
Well, the One Lap of America it's a people first event for us. We love spending time with those people who choose and are able to spend their time on the One Lap. To see them every morning, to see them at random gas stations in the middle of nowhere, to pass them on the highway and, be able to spot their stickers from like half a mile away, and know that, they're an idiot just like us doing this crazy event. And the event is long enough that you start to get used to the flow of a day, waking up early, not spending much time at breakfast. Like every step is anticipation of the next. And so your life for 8 days has intense purpose and intense structure to it. And all of that is in service to doing this crazy adventure in race cars with some of the best people. And it, is just long enough that you just start to think, well, this is just how my life is now. And when you get home, like Becky and I do, we've got this ritual. We live close enough to the start right now that it's a very short drive. It's always the hardest drive, but it's a very short drive to our house, relatively. So under 2 hours. And we kind of unpack what we need to unpack, food, we lay out our gear and, put the refresh on it and, dirty clothes and, kind of all this stuff. And then we go get Thai food. And then we sit on the couch and don't move for the rest of the day. pretty much. And it's good. Like, that's great. And then you wake up the next day and you're still tired all the next day, but like something's kind of missing. And then the entire next week just kind of feels meaningless in like, and I try to mean that in a good way, but like you don't have the intense sense of purpose and structure that the One Lap brings, especially, of course, since it's centered around that adventure in cars with people. And so the entire next week is kind of a scrub. You just have to get that for a full week, going back to your life with your family, which is great to see them. Your job, doing the lawn, doing some laundry. Like, you just kind of have to do the things knowing that it's just not going to feel the same. And then after a week, then things get a little bit easier. But that entire next week is can be very difficult.
Yeah. So you just mentioned laundry. 8 days in living out of a car suitcase.
Mm-hmm.
No laundry stops, I'm assuming, right?
No, and a lot of people, well, some people, they just buy clothes kind of as they go. After and after it's worn, they throw it away and they buy something new, and that's especially in the cars that don't have a lot of storage space.
Right.
That's how they run it. Becky and I have gotten very good at packing light, but packing intentionally, so that we can bring a full 8 days worth of clothes and not be feeling like sleaze bags by the end of it.
Yeah, don't be a scumbag and
Yeah.
wear the same thing 2 days in a row or whatever.
Except for jeans. Jeans can last.
Yeah, that's a little different. But then you always have to have a plan because your car will always make you work hard for it, and generally not in the best areas, probably. So
It's true.
Eventually they'll get dirty. So,
Yep.
Well, Scott, I think that'll do it for this one. I really appreciate you coming on. Where can people find you? The rumor is you guys are on break over there at Track Walking for the summer, except for I keep seeing your name come up with all the other podcasts. So it sounds like you're doing a tour.
Yep, the podcast episodes are not on break yet.
Oh, okay.
But we'll be here in a couple more weeks. It's a kind of a sabbatical Seth and I have always done, and is kind of important to us to keep the energy going in the podcast. But yeah, that's Track Walking Podcast. You can find that out tracktune.com, or just search Track Walking on your preferred podcast platform. For Robertson Racing, which is our coaching and setup business, that can be found at robertson-racing.com. The link to the Discord can be found kind of all over the place, and that's where we spend a lot of our time now. And Robertson Racing is on Instagram, and at Robertson Racing at Robertson Racing Miata is the Facebook page. So kind of all over.
Hey, I don't know how you keep up with all that. That's too much for me, but
yeah, I mean it's nice. Instagram posts directly to Facebook, and Discord is kind of fun. Like that's where we kind of hang out and share videos and updates on from what everybody's doing and preparing for and stuff. So that's good.
Sweet. Well, Scott, thanks again, man.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, let me know how your theory crafting goes on your RX-8.
Yeah, I think, well, there's such a debate. Like, do I K swap it? Do you J swap it? Do you LS it? Whatever. There's lots of things you can do.
Yeah, turbos. Yeah, if you K swap it, you really would, I think, want a turbo for the one lap.
Okay.
But turboing things introduces
more variables.
A lot of yeah. So I would stick naturally aspirated if you could.
I would still turbo the J series, so there goes problems.
You would.
All right. Thanks a lot, Scott.
You bet.